Hey guys, Bales. I'm at DraftKings and wanted to run over a lineup from last night and more importantly than that, talk about the season thus far and interpreting results and really not getting too high when you're on a hot streak. I've been pretty lucky this year and last night won the Grand Slam on DraftKings. It was a 444 buy and 30K to first, and I cashed 3 of 7. I stacked it in this one. The Twins. I stacked the Twins in all 3 of those lineups that cashed. This was Twins and D-backs. I think 4 players from each. Like the Twins a bunch. One reason was they had some good line movement, moved from 4.4 to 4.8, even though they got only 28% of bets. I believe 70% of money was on them, even with fewer bets. So, normally I run through my thoughts on each player of the stack. This time I'm going to instead look at results from 2017 and just show you sort of what I think about how I've done and show you maybe some numbers that could be surprising perhaps. So this is just MLB, and I'm only looking at DraftKings. It's kind of a pain to put a FanDuel in there as well. I think the results probably would have been pretty similar, but so in the top left here we just have I don't have the dollar amount, but this right here is 0. And you can see this is just profit over time for the season. So obviously you see just a few days here that stand out. Those were huge jumps in Bankroll. And otherwise it's a lot of smaller losses. You see some extended periods of losing or break-even play. So starting the season up until mid-April, basically even before the first big win. And then soon after that, a series of, 7 days in a row, maybe losing. Same thing after the biggest win of the year, which is when I think I won qualifier that day. Another series of losses, and so I haven't really changed too much. I changed maybe 2 weeks in. We had different data, and I changed my mind a little bit, and I've changed it at other times too, just based on just tweaking it. Really, nothing that substantial, but otherwise pretty much taking the same approach outside of minor adjustments. So if I'm starting the year like this or after this stretch right here, or after this stretch of losses, these big wins can be, they're pretty fragile. They as we've seen in some of these lineup reviews, if I have one fewer home run or a few strikeouts are gone, or a pitcher gets pulled or whatever, it can be a gigantic shift in the amount of money that you make. So I think that it's just really important to realize how volatile baseball is, and when you're doing well, it's never as good as it seems, and when you're running really poorly and just you seem like you can't break through, it's probably not going as poorly as it seems. So so I'm in the middle of obviously a really good run, probably the best I've ever had in baseball, and yet I've lost money on 65% of days. So around 2 and 3 days that I play, I lose money, and just over 1 and 3 I make money, and that number is actually lower. That's with me performing pretty well of late. So most days, obviously I'm playing tournaments. This is tournaments only, not cash. That's all I play. In MLB, I haven't played any cash games all year. And probably long term, I might make money in 30% of days or fewer. And so that's not abnormal at all. Here's the percentage of contests that I've cashed. So I have not cashed in around 70%, and I have cashed around 30%. And that's a good number to cash in tournaments. But still, if you're playing really well, probably going to lose money with any given lineup. In the bottom left here, we have the percentile rank. So 0 is really, really good. That means that I finished really highly. This is just over time on the season. 1 is really bad. So you can see this little dot right here, I finished last. There's another one that's very close. So those are the worst. And I created that just so you can sort of visualize. It's really hard to see a trend there. It looks like there's probably some more dots down here, which is good. But overall, the difference between playing really well and having really good results and not is not that perceptible. And so then here are the finishes overall. So the orange is the expected, just if you're completely average, you might have a top 1% performance 1% of the time, top 5%, and so on. I've finished in the top 1% over 2% of the time. I think it was 2.1%. The top 5%, just under 7% of the time. The top 20% looks like around 26%. And I've had fewer bottom 10, bottom 5, and bottom 1% finishes. So all of that is good. But if you look at the top 5% versus top 1%, let's say, I finished in for the most part, I create lineups to try to finish in the top 5%, and I hope that I create them that they have a really good shot to go even higher, and that's the way that I sort of try to build the lineup with ownership and things that it can benefit and get really high, have a really high finish when others are struggling. But that ratio is probably unsustainable. So I've finished in the top 5%, not that much more than just an average player, maybe 25% more often or something like that. But I've finished in the top 1% over 100% more than you'd expect based on average. So I think that ratio is probably unsustainable, and a good reason to think that I've probably just gotten a little bit lucky with where the lineups have finished. And there's definitely a skill to that, obviously, and creating lineups that have the potential to finish in the top 1% versus just cash, let's say. Those based on all the numbers I've seen and some analysis that I've done on historic lineups, those lineups a lot of times do look a lot different, but it's pretty unlikely that long term I can finish in the top 5% only 7% of the time, or 6.5 or whatever that is very. It's definitely between 6 and 7%, and finish in the top 1% over 2% of the time. So again, just more evidence, some data to reinforce to me that a lot of this ROI and the extreme nature of the success I've had is unsustainable. It won't keep going, and it's due a lot to luck, and just reinforces that it's just always really easy to think that you're the best player in the world when things are going well, and think that you suck and you're never going to make money ever again when things are not going well. I think everyone feels that. Even the best players in the world who I've talked to feel that same thing. So if you look at some of the numbers on how you're performing and the small differences between winning and losing, it's I think a good practice to not get overzealous when you're doing well, and too down when you're doing poorly. So that's just a little bit of insight into I guess how I think about winning and losing, and it's obviously easier to do these things and look at all that stuff when you're winning. But I do think it's important to force yourself to do it when you're losing, and just keep your process the same. And if there's good evidence that you're a long-term winner, to just keep doing it every single day, and those numbers do even out in the long run.